Now, I would like to give the floor to His Excellency Ambassador Mohan Pieris, permanent representative of Sri Lanka. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for giving me the floor. My delegation aligns itself with the statement delivered by Indonesia on behalf of the non-aligned movement, and I make the following statement in my national capacity. Mr. Chairman, as we sit comfortably in this chamber, speaking of the importance of nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation, the world is undoubtedly experiencing the worst of aggression seen in recent times. A ban on nuclear weapons is indeed important work to which Sri Lanka is steadfastly committed. But in this artificially tranquil environment, it can be easy to feel detached and be lulled into a sense of complacency, I say, with regard to the actual human suffering these abominable weapons cause. It is important to listen to accounts of the agony endured by survivors. Mr. Chairman, it would appear that we are one generation literally who has the power to destroy the past, the present, and the future, the power to bring time to an end for us human beings. As someone said, we are in a world of nuclear giants and ethical infants. We know more about war than of peace, more about killing than of living. We have grasped the mystery of the atom and rejected the Sermon on the Mount. That is surely a tragedy of our times. It was young Miss Matsumoto who hid in an underground bunker shelter who narrated the immense suffering in Nagasaki. I urge the chamber to consider your emotions if Miss Matsumoto were your child. She recalled of that day, quote, "As we sat there, shell-shocked and confused, heavily injured, burn victims came stumbling into the bomb shelter en masse. Their skins had peeled off their bodies and faces and hung limply down on the ground in ribbons. Their hair was burnt down to a few measly centimeters from the scalp. Many of the victims collapsed as soon as they reached the bomb shelter entrance, forming a massive pile of contorted bodies." Mr. Chairman, do we need to say more? The consequences of a detonation by the stockpile we have today would be just beyond our imagination. Mr. President, it is disappointing and frustrating that we have witnessed a recent backslide in progress. The NPT review conferences have ended with no consensus. Nuclear threats have become more palpable and frequent. We appear to have a bad propensity, I say, to flirt with suicidal tendencies. Some commentators muse about the introduction and political acceptability of the use of tactical nuclear weapons. And some nuclear-armed states have reneged on multilateral agreements aimed at reducing the threat of nuclear weapon use. Furthermore, a continued lack of progress on disarmament may eventually lead other states to test and develop nuclear weapons. Mr. Chairman, in keeping with its long-standing commitment to nuclear non-proliferation and disarmament, Sri Lanka was also pleased to accede to the TPNW recently during the high-level week. The convening of the first meeting of state parties on the 21st to 23rd June of 22, which adopted a declaration and an action plan, was a welcome measure, I say. Sri Lanka looks forward to participating at the meeting of states in November this year. Sri Lanka is taking real substantive steps. We urge others to join us in taking unified action to work towards the elimination of nuclear weapons. At the same time, it must be reiterated that non-proliferation policies should not infringe on each other's right to access, produce, import, export, and use nuclear energy for peaceful purposes. Mr. Chairman, in closing, I would like to echo the words of the late Sri Lankan diplomat Jayanta Dhanapala and the UN Under-Secretary General and chair of the NPT Review Conference of 1995, who dedicated his life to the cause of disarmament when he said, "In addressing such weapons, the committee should explore ways of bringing disarmament to the world or bringing the world to disarmament. But disarmament," he said, "must be done. As members of this committee, ask not to whom the peace bells tolls. It tolls for you." Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I thank distinguished Ambassador of Sri Lanka for his powerful statement.